it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet these super easy home all day slipper socks. These are so soft and cozy, and they're basically like a chunky tube sock. So you can just slip them on and wear them and be cozy at home. I used some self-striping yarn, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but that created these really neat random color block patterns, and I'm going to show you how to either make them completely the same, symmetrical, or if you want your colors to be more randomly placed like mine, which I love this look, by the way, you know, we can do that as well. I'll show you how to do both ways. So these are really easy. They're about 16 inches tall and about 8 inch in their circumference. And I'm going to talk about the hook and the yarn weight, but if you want them to be heavier or chunkier or lighter, you can go up and down in the hook size and the yarn weight to make them bigger or smaller as well. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, a ruler or tape measure is helpful in order to get your slippers of equal size, and you'll need a 5.5 millimeter eye crochet hook and your yarn. I'm going to be using a yarn called Sweet Roll by Premier. I did a yarn 101 on this if you're not familiar with this yarn. The color here I have is called Gelato Pop. Now if you need to substitute yarn, each one of these is 245 yards, and when you're looking to substitute, look for something that's a 4 or a medium on the yarn weight scale, and that recommends the 5.5 millimeter eye crochet hook as well. Now this is a self-striping yarn, so it'll change, but if you use a solid, that would look equally pretty as well. Okay, so I made a slipper, and we're going to make the second slipper together. Now before you get started, when you're making the first slipper, you can just pull the yarn and just start crocheting. Now I've made my second slipper, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the colors and how they present themselves. This slipper here begins with cream, goes to lavender, and then finally blue at the top. And once again, this is about 16 inches from toe to top. Once you get started on your second slipper, and I mentioned this a little bit later in the video too, just to remind you, but if you want your slippers to be symmetrical or not, you'll have to decide that once you're ready to make the second one. So the next color in my yarn, I didn't quite use all of the blue, so I would still have blue, which means when I begin my second slipper, because it's worked toe up, my toe for the second slipper is going to be blue. If that's not okay with you and you want your slippers to be symmetrical, I'm going to show you a little trick. So if you want to mix and match, I'm going to mix and match mine. But if you don't want to mix and match, let me show you this little trick. So if you look at your cake, each one of these colors, you can kind of peel them apart. See this? So I can kind of peel the cream, and I can peel the lavender. If I want my other slipper to look similar to this one and start with the cream at the bottom, what I can do is sort of peel this away and lift this blue right out from the center, and then let's see where our cream starts. Let me just pull a little bit out. See, it starts right here. So I can just cut the yarn right where that blue ends and begin my second slipper, okay? If you want them to be symmetrical. Now, there's no guarantee that you're going to get exactly this thick of a stripe with the purple when you make the second one, but it'll be similar. If you don't want them to be similar and you want to mix and match, now these are like casual, hang out at home kind of slippers. So I'm going to make mine mix and match, and it'll make for interesting slippers. So I'm just going to simply begin with the blue. It doesn't bother me one bit. But if you want yours to be symmetrical, just kind of lift and separate that yarn as needed, okay? So let's begin with round one. These slippers are kind of like a tube sock style, and we're just going to be making just a rounded bottom and then working our way upward and just making like a simple tube, okay? So what you want to do is put a slip knot on your hook. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up the loop and tighten. Next, we're going to chain 4. To make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then in the chain farthest from the hook, we're going to work a slip stitch. So insert the hook into that chain farthest from the hook, the first one we made, bring up a loop, now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook. We now have the ring that we're going to be working our stitches into. So kind of open that up a little bit, and this tail here will hold along the edges we work, and that will weave that in as we go along, okay? So next what we're going to do, and I want to mention as a side note, if you prefer the magic ring, I get this question quite often. If you like the magic ring better to start something in the round, by all means, please do that method instead. So next what we're going to do is chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to work 11 double crochets into the center of the ring. So by the end, we'll have 12 spokes on our wheel because this chain 3 counts as one of our double crochets. So to make a double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into the center of the ring and bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops on your hook. So that's 1, and we need a total of 11, okay, to make a total of 12 because remember we're including this chain 3 as one of our double crochets, okay? So we've made 1, but we need 11. So that's 1, 2, holding that tail along the edge, 3, 4, then 5, 6, holding that tail again, 7, 8, pushing those stitches aside if you need to, 9, 10, and 11. Whoops. There, 11. Okay, so next what we need to do is join with a slip stitch to close the round. So count 3 chains up, 1, 2, and 3. Insert your hook into that 3rd chain up. Bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. So we just did a slip stitch to close the round. And then you can pull this tail nice and tight when you're done and sort of get it out of the way and let it drop. Okay, so let's double check just to make sure. I always like to double check before I begin stitching into these stitches. So 1, remember that chain 3 is one of our double crochets. So we need 12 all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay? Next, what we're going to do is begin round 2. So we're going to chain 3 once again. 1, 2, 3. And then this first stitch right here, see that first stitch right there? We're going to work a double crochet right into that first stitch. And then for the remainder of the round, we're going to work 2 double crochets in each stitch. This is the part where of our slipper where we need to increase to create that rounded edge and, you know, taper it at the toe. Okay? So we're going to work just 2 double crochets in each stitch. So 1 and 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, next stitch, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. As you can see, we're halfway around. Just keep doing that in each stitch. This is going to create that nice tapered toe shape at the bottom of our slipper. Just work 2 double crochets in every stitch all the way around. 1 and 2. And I gotta say, this yarn is really nice and soft for a pair of slippers. So it's and these are kind of like PJ colors too, I think. Okay, so 2 double crochet. And let me back up my yarn spool a bit. The other thing too, when I make slippers, I really like to use washable yarn because you're going to be walking around on the floor with them. So it's nice to have a yarn you can wash, okay? So now we're back where we started. So you're going to count 3 chains up. 1, 2, 3. Insert your hook and join in that 3rd chain up with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay, just like that, just like we did before. You can see our circle has grown, okay? And if it curls ever so slightly, that's okay because we're going to be making this into a curved toe anyway, okay? Let's move on to round 3. Round 3 is super easy, and it is the row or round rather, that you'll be repeating for your entire slipper. So it's a really easy slipper to construct. Nothing fancy needed here. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then work, see this first stitch right here? In that first stitch, work a double crochet, just like that. The next stitch, work a double crochet, and in every stitch after on this entire round, we're going to work a double crochet, and that is it. That's all you have to do for the entire round, okay? The other really easy thing about this slipper is that if you choose, well, you can make yours in a solid color. If you choose to use a variegated or self-striping yarn like this, you won't have to stop and change colors. You can just keep on crocheting. See where I've changed colors, I didn't have to do anything. I just kept crocheting. Okay, so we're just going to work a double crochet in each stitch all the way around. And I can't wait to see how these colors are going to present themselves, because we're kind of doing the opposite what we did with the other slipper. So again, if you want your slippers to be symmetrical, just do what I mentioned earlier in the video and just pull this yarn, this blue yarn section out, or whatever color you're using. These cake yarns come in a lot of really fun color combination. And the sweet roll, this yarn in particular that I'm using here, the sweet roll is always 3 colors. So if you choose to use the sweet roll, just know that it's just different combinations of just 3 colors. So you're going to get this sort of color block effect like I've gotten here. Okay? So I'm being more mix and match about my slippers, but you can really plan it so that they're more symmetrical. Now we're at the beginning of the round, so count 3 chains up and join with a slip stitch to close. So I'm going to keep working on my slipper, and let's see, if we match it to this one, you can see we're just down here at the toe, and I'm just going to keep working round 3 over and over and over until my slipper is about 16 inches tall. Now if you've already made one, you can use the first one kind of as a guideline as to how many rows you've done, or I'm not even going to count the rows. I'm just going to kind of like match them up to make sure they're symmetrical. And you can pull them up straight. You can slouch them a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to work round 3 over and over and over, and we'll rejoin towards the end, and I'm going to show you how to finish up your slippers as well. Okay, so I'm just working that very last double crochet, and then we can join with a slip stitch to close the round. And our slippers are complete. So let's go ahead and fasten off the yarn. So cut it, fasten that off, and finally we can weave the ends in. So I have my slipper socks, and like I mentioned earlier in the video, I really wanted a random kind of color pattern with these slippers. So our striping or color blocking, if you will, is very random, and I really love that. If you want your stripes to be more uniform, just back up the video a little bit, and I explained that earlier in the video. But we just have 2 little tails to weave in. So I grabbed my tapestry needle, just thread your tapestry needle. You can just kind of fold that over a little bit. So you're weaving it in on the inside. So just take your tapestry needle, just run it along those stitches in one direction. And then go back in the other direction just to kind of lock that tail into place. Okay, and then you can snip with your scissors. And then we just have one more. And that's the neat thing about these self-striping yarns, is that when you get to the end of your project, we have very few tails to weave in. Okay, so just come in one direction with your needle. And when you do your finish work like this, you want to take your time and make it nice and neat, because you spent all this time crocheting this piece, so you want to finish it up on a nice neat note, if you will. Okay, so come back in the other direction like we did before, and then you can just snip that off, and your slippers are complete, and they look so cute and comfy, and you can see a little bit where we've joined. And that's it. That's how you crochet the home all day slipper socks. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.